Hiya guys, thanks for joining me today. My name is Mark Fitzgerald and today we're going to cover how do you know if a rent-to-rent deal is a good deal or not. It's a very good question. It's a great question I get asked all the time. As everybody is looking to start the rent-to-rent businesses, they want to know that they're going to get into a good deal and not a bad deal. As we know, anything bad is no good. At the end of the day, you're going to be losing money. People get into rent-to-rent to get good profit, but to do a good job. And as long as you go in with that attitude of making sure that you are doing a good job, you should be also looking at getting good profit. It should be a win-win. So it should be a win for the landlord whose property it is, because we're going to take away the hassle and pain of running an HMO, or if you're going to turn it into a serviced accommodation, the hassle of owning a rental property. In my case, I do a lot of HMO, so I know exactly where the rents are each month with all the tenants that I have in there. But of course, with serviced accommodation, it can work very well as well. So we're going to take away that hassle from the landlords, and we're also then going to offer them a guaranteed rent. But we need to make sure that we don't offer them too much money and that there's nothing left in the deal for us. I see far too many people at the moment getting into bad deals that just don't stack up, locking themselves into long contracts, and that's the biggest worry. If you set yourself up right and you set yourself up for success, you will succeed. I've managed to replace my income and double my income using the rent-to-rent strategy. It's a very good strategy, but it needs to be done very, very well. You need to be looking at it as a business. As I always say, rent-to-rent is a business, very much like a lettings agency, but set yourself up as a business. Set yourself up in the right way and make sure your deals stack. So before I go into more details with this, I would just like to say, if you want any of the free tools and resources that I offer, a 10-step rent-to-rent business builder guide, my free viewings guide, which also covers what to say, what questions to ask, and what not to say when you're doing viewings with landlords and agents, and also my free deal stacker, which again is fantastic for stacking up the deals, exactly what we're talking about today, and making sure your numbers work. You can put the room rates in there, you can put the utility costs in there, and it'll tell you exactly what you can afford to offer the landlord and also what profit you should be looking to get from the deals yourself. But we'll cover that now. So have a look in the show notes if you're interested in any of those. Download them. They're all free to you. I used to do the same, so why not do it yourself? If you don't enjoy them, it hasn't cost you anything. But if you get something from them and they help you in any way, then reach out to me and let me know that it has, because I like to think what goes around comes around, and it'll make my day if something that I've put out there has helped you moving forward. So let's look at how we're going to stack a deal here. And realistically, if you're doing an HMO, if you're looking at HMOs as your main strategy, then the rule of thumb is you want to be looking to make about £100 profit per room. So if you take an HMO, for argument's sake, house of multiple occupation, and let's just say it has 5 bedrooms that it's rented out. So it rents each of the bedrooms out individually on separate ASTs, or it can be done on one AST if it's students. But let's just say it's for professionals, it's for working professionals, and we're going to let this out on individual rooms. Then each and every room will have its own rent. That is where the profits will be then, and that is where the profits are for us to be able to give the landlord what they need. So if you took a 5-bed house, and let's just say for argument's sake, all of the bedrooms were £500 rent a month. So you had £2,500 worth of rent coming in. You then have the utilities and the bills to pay. So you've got the gas, the electric, the water, you've got Wi-Fi, you've got a cleaner, you've possibly got council tax as well, depending whether what sort of tenant types that you've got. So you've got some expenditures that are going to come out. Now, what happens is when we take on these properties, we will cover normally the bills. If you have students, then a lot of the times they can cover the bills. But when working with working professionals, we tend to cover the bills, and we tend to take the bills on as well. So we need to make sure that we set the houses up as cost effectively as possible. And what do I mean by that? Well, you want to have sensors on your hallway lights so that, yes, they come on when tenants need them, but they cannot be left on. They will switch themselves off after a certain amount of time. You can buy light bulbs now that have these sensors built into them if the house is a little bit older. But what you'll find on a lot of HMOs is they have the little sensors that when you walk into the hallway, the lights come on. They normally stay on for 5 minutes, and if they don't detect any movement, they will switch themselves off. That can help keep the electricity down. And likewise with the gas, with your central heating, you want to be looking at a thermostat or an Inspire system, something that really switches the heating off when it hits a certain temperature. A normal thermostat can be bypassed and they can leave the heating on 24/7, and that's not what you need with the energy costs that are going out at the moment now. So make sure you set yourself up for success and you put the right things in place that you need. Obviously all properties are different, and you can spend a few quid on those in the beginning, but trust me, it's money you will save in the long run. So if you're looking at your £2,500 of rent coming in, and let's say for argument's sake, the bills are going to cost us £500. Now, if it's 5 bedrooms, what did we say? We want to earn £100 profit per room. So we need to be making £500 profit. And that is after the bills have been paid and all costs and the landlord's been paid. So on this very hypothetical theory, you would be able to pay the landlord 1,500 quid. Now, obviously things don't always work out as cleanly and as easy as that. Sometimes you have single rooms that aren't as much, that you can't get as much for as the double rooms. So in size, so if it's a smaller room, you're going to get less money for it. You know, a bigger room, you might have a loft room, which sometimes can command even more profit or even more rental income, should I say. So at the end of the day, you've got to factor these figures in, and it can get a little bit complicated, which is why if you have a decent spreadsheet that you can put these figures in, you can work out exactly how much rental income's coming in month on month. You can go on to the adverts, you know, the spare room sites or your Rightmove, Zooplas or Open Rents. You can look at how much the going rates are for the room rents in your area. You can track them in a spreadsheet. Then you can put your utilities in, and always, I think, over budget. Always go on the air of caution. Never try and pull your bills and everything in so that you think, oh, I can get the bills right down, I can make this money, or I can elevate the rents. As I've said in the past, it doesn't always work like that. Try and stick yourself in the middle. I always say with the bills, err on caution and go a little bit more, because there's a lot more people sort of working from home now. There's a lot more people who are charging things. Everybody's got something charging 24/7. There's always something plugged in. And obviously, if you've got your gas sorted out, yes, it's going to be a bit higher in the winter when they're going to need the heating more, but it will still be needed in the summer. Now you could say, well, what for? People still need to dry clothes and things. And if it's raining outside and they can't hang clothes out, they are going to need to put the heating on to be able to dry their clothes and things, unless you put some airers in there or you have a tumble dryer in there. But again, a tumble dryer running 24/7 is going to put the old energy prices up. So weigh up what works best for you, what works best for the needs of your tenants as well, because we have to make sure we keep the tenants happy. Not taking the mickey, but they need to be set up so that they can use facilities, so that they can do what they need to do in the property without being too restricted. Otherwise, they're going to get annoyed and they're going to leave. That's going to give you voids. And in the long run, having more voids than not having voids will cost you more money. So it's about keeping them sweet and happy. So in my area, it's about £100 a room. If you're in London or you're in a really expensive area, it may be more than that you need to get from the rent. But fundamentally, if you've got 5 bedrooms, you want to be able to make enough rent to cover at least one void without money coming out of your pocket. So say in London, you've got room rents of £800 or £700 per room per month. You need to be making that in profit for the deal to stack up, because what you don't want is to have a void and for then you having to pay out of your own pocket for that void. Mark my words, you will have voids. By hook or by crook, depending on what you're doing. Obviously, students can be a bit easier because they tend to float in and float out, and you can market and try and get new students in before then. But at some point, you may have a void. At some point, you will have maintenance. So have separate pots sort of that you're saving up, so all of your profit is not spent on your good self. Make sure some of money is kept in your business for a rainy day, because there are rainy days. Things will go wrong, things will happen. But by having those pots in the background, you can set yourself up in the best possible way, so that when it does happen, and it will happen, at some point something will happen that you'll need a little bit of money for just to sort out. you've got your pots ready there, and you can just use that money to sort them out. I like to put 10% of my profit, one for voids, 10% for maintenance from whatever money I'm making, and that pot just fills up. Now that pot doesn't go anywhere, it stays in my business as like working capital. So at the end of the day, it's your money still, you're not losing anything. And if that pot builds up to a certain amount that's really quite big, you could say, well, I'll cut that off now until I use it, and then I'll start putting it back in again. But again, it's almost like a savings pot in your business for your running costs and your capital. So when something happens, or you have a void, or something goes wrong, you're ready to rock and roll with the money in the background. You might not have this to start with, so don't worry about it, but do when you start making money, when you start bringing in money from your rentals, have that there ready, because it helps you sleep at night. And as I say, think of it as a business. And in any business, you need to have some working capital. You need to have some money to fall back on. Companies and businesses that don't have working capital or good cash flow strangle themselves. And it's no different in rent to rent. If you haven't got any money behind you whatsoever when you have been making money, and don't get me wrong, at the beginning it can be very tight, it can be very difficult to do, but it's still achievable. But once you are making money, there is no excuse. There is no excuse to not have these pots in the background building up from each of your properties. And then, like I say, if one has more of a problem than the other ones can sort of subsidize it with this. You can still earn your wages, and you can still have your little pot of money or whatever it is you want to do with your money, but make sure that you've got your working capital there. Okay, I hope this helps you, and if it does, like, subscribe and share if you have got any nuggets from this. And yeah, I will be back next week to share some more tips, tricks and advice. And in the meantime, come and join us in the Facebook group, the Rent to Rent Business Builder Facebook group, which is free on obviously Facebook. And look at those free resources and see if there's anything that tickles your fancy. If not, I'll catch you later. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye for now.